Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is EV Variety, and today I'm going to be doing a critique of High Guardian Spice. This one is not going to be scripted because I can't be bothered to put the effort into this show since the people who made it didn't put effort into it to begin with. So, well, that was probably a little bit too harsh. But anyway, today I'm going to be comparing specifically the writing of the first episode of this entire team that worked on this, the writing staff and editors, compared to one guy, beginner writer, and that guy is me. I've been doing this for a little over 2 years now, writing specifically, because before I did any of the comic strips for my webtoon, I basically started writing first because I didn't want to draw something that wasn't going to end up being used. So I ended up doing all the writing first. I would do the entire season writing, then start drawing, and so on. And I've done that so far with everything I've done. Now, I'm not going to be comparing the animation or art because obviously this is an entire studio working on this. Compared to me, which is just one guy. Even though, me personally, I don't think the animation in High Guardian Spice is anything new or spectacular. I think it's okay. There are some infamous things, such as PNGs being dropped in there, which people have easily spotted, and I've spotted it as well watching it. It is pretty hard not to notice, but then again, I have more of a video editing artistic eye than the average audience watching. Not to elevate myself or anything, but that's just how my brain thinks. It's not an advantage or a disadvantage. It's more of a curse in this case. So I'm not gonna be comparing the animation because again, this is an entire studio versus one guy doing it, and having actually two people, someone helping me with the coloring and some of the shots. But I will go ahead and compare the first episode, the events of the first episode of High Guardian Spice, and of course I'm not going to be showing footage of that because of copyright reasons, but I can show you my comic because it is mine. But to basically summarize first episode of High Guardian Spice, two characters, Rosemary and Sage. I may not remember all their names. I apologize if I don't. But they are, they're accepted into this academy. They say goodbye to their parents. Something about old magic, something about new magic, not good. Old magic is safer and that kind of thing. The basic kind of description where it's like risk and reward for using newer magic and that kind of thing. And then Rosemary is going to be a warrior with a sword gifted to her by her mother. They board a train. She has a dream about her mother that puts some significance on the sword. And then they enter the village. Nothing really, not village, the academy, city, town, whatever it's called. Anyway, they enter there. So the journey, the episode 1 is called Journey to, Journey to Lingarth. And the journey is done. The journey is done like halfway through the episode without any kind of problems arising. And then they meet this girl. What's her name? Time. I almost said T. I knew it wasn't T. Time. And she doesn't really like him. She's kind of quiet, sort of, and like, get out of my way type of attitude. Then some animal takes her, Rosemary's locket, and they watch it find a mate. They transform with wings, and then the locket breaks. They take it to a blacksmith, this little girl here, which, by the way, is probably the only good design, in my opinion. Like, this is the only character that I like aesthetically. Mostly because she's, like, so small compared to everyone else. Anyway. But Parsley, that's her name, Parsley. They meet Parsley. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm a blacksmith, I'll fix it. Run into time again, and that's basically it. So from point A to point B, they reached their objective, which was the journey. They finished the journey early in the episode, and then meet these two characters by chance encounters that don't really go anywhere until the next episode. And I'm saying this because they do eventually go somewhere, right? But this is the first episode. If you're going to introduce a character, do it in a way that's meaningful, that has that character do something in the episode. And the main thing is there's no kind of hook to get you wanting to see what's going on. Obviously, the disappearance of her mother, you're like, oh, what happened to her mother? Did she die? Did she get called into battle or something? Like, why is she being passed down the sword, and where is her mother at? And yeah, there's that kind of thing going on, but that's not really the focus. The focus is the journey, and there's no problem with the journey. The journey just goes perfectly swell. Like nothing happens to make that journey interesting, nor to make it have some kind of tension to make you want to keep watching and see them succeed at getting there. They just get there and meet other characters coincidentally. So now we've had that compared. We've had that not compared, but summarized of what this first episode plot is, and you can read the first episode plot yourself. There's like a summary on this page, as well as in, I think, Wikipedia has it summarized as well. But now we're gonna look at DemoniCo, which is my first series ever written, ever did the art for, and to the credit, this is the remastered version. So I have gone back several months ago and did retune some things, but the story itself is the same. Only writing, like grammar, that kind of thing. That's the only thing that has changed, is the writing of the grammar and some of the way the paragraphs flow and whatnot, and also the presentation. Some of the art has been completely revamped. Some of it's been tweaked just a little bit to look better with my current stuff. So with that being said, let's go ahead. By the way, this is gonna have season 3, episode 1 premiere pretty soon. So if you have not read this, it's probably a good idea for you to read it yourself. But if you don't have time for that and you just want to watch this video, I am going to go through the summary of this. So let's go ahead and begin. Episode 1, that dream I had, which by the way is a reference to the fact that I got this idea from a dream. And also sorry for the white bars. This is just the only way it looks good on PC. Anyway, so it starts off with young Simon in an alley, being tricked into signing a contract by a demon. And in this setting, he is convinced that by signing the contract, he's going to make the world a better place. And he mentions that he'll save the world from drowning. And you'll see later on what that means. But it's just mentioned here. So at this point, he is taken to Hell's office, where he is still unsure of what's going on. He doesn't know why this man has red skin with hair on the palms. He's very confused by it, as a child would be. But at this point, it's also mentioned that Simon ran away from an orphanage, and does not want to go back there. He would rather just take his chance with anyone else. And so he is tricked into the throne room of hell, where he meets the devil and gets his eye pierced. And it ends right there. The devil pierced his right eye. And it cuts right there. Time skip. 6 years later, Simon is now 16 years old. And he is a classic school bully type of character. He's beating up this kid named Sam. He's taking his money. Sam runs away, and Simon looks at his eye patch in the reflection, mostly looking at himself in general with a scowl. Now you get to see a wide shot showing the ocean has taken over the planet, and he is on a floating city. There's some boats passing by, but this is where the story takes place. This is the setting shown right here in a wide shot, and it's got some dialogue about how this happened, where he's going on like a little monologue to Judas, which is this demon character on the roof here, which he's talking to. At this point, he also talks about his reasons for stealing, for robbing kids and taking their lunch money, essentially. He talks about the reasoning for that, which is the fact that the world is robbed from him, since it robbed his normal humanity, it robbed his eye, it robbed him of his parents. He thinks he is justified in doing what he's doing because he was first stolen from. Judas tells him that is a greedy way of thinking, and that the irony of greed is that you will end up losing it all. And Simon comments that, yeah, you would know all about that, wouldn't you? In which case, at the end of this scene, he is name dropped as Judas. And if you know anything about the biblical character of Judas, you might already know what that means, but it is more explained later on in the future. If you don't, it is explained in this story. Now, move on. It's now nighttime. Simon is just on the roof looking for someone to steal money from when he happens to find this kid. The words of Judas echo in his mind, telling him that he should try doing something for someone else for once. You never know how it might change your life or yours. Simon decides that and empathizes with this kid, seeing a little bit of himself, a lost kid in him, and decides, okay, I'm going to go help him. So he does. He goes down, follows him down a series of alleys, but ends up losing him, where he comes in contact with a familiar foe. In this case, Simon is reunited with Saul, and Saul reintroduces himself. Simon remembers who he is, Saul remembers who Simon is, and they engage in a bit of a fight. At this point, Saul removes the eye patch from Simon to get a good look at him, and then description of the eye, how it looks, the eye that was pierced. They engage again in some further fighting, where Saul is getting the upper hand, punching the breath out of Simon, even though he's using his demonic powers. Saul's strength is much more powerful than Simon's. Simon then gets knocked out. He's knocked unconscious, and while he is sleeping, he is having this dream that is a memory of him whenever he was first infected. You see his eye, you see the blood coming off of it. He's bound by chains in Hell's prison, and Judas, the demon that he was talking to on the roof, sets him free. And at this point, waking back up in current day, Simon finds a rope and uses Saul's assumption that Simon is still knocked out to his advantage. He ends up getting the drop on Saul, ripping off his coat and taunting him with it. Saul breaks the pillars on the floor on the construction building they're on, and the building starts to collapse. In which case, Simon uses the rope that he spots whenever he first wakes up, and ties Saul to the remaining pillar, forcing him to be buried by the building while Simon jumps free and attempting to fly with his wing. At this point, he walks down the alley again, walking back into the streets, talking about the wallet that he stole from Saul. Again, Simon is a selfishly motivated character, so he did steal Saul's wallet to get some money. He runs into the kid from before, which we find out his name is Timmy by looking at his coat, which reveals his name on the inside of it. Timmy cannot talk, so it's a one-way conversation with Simon, with Timmy only nodding. And so this eventually leads for Simon to begrudgingly take Timmy home with him for the night so he can find his parents tomorrow. In the background, you see Saul still alive and talking to someone on the phone. And then it ends with Judas walking to a meeting room and discussing with the rest of the demons what their next plan is going to be. And that's it. That's it for the pilot episode of DemoniCo. That is the basic plot summarized. And there's a bunch more things that are included in this that I skipped for time's sake. And now I'm going to compare these two pilots and why one fails where the other works. So again, this is the plot has stayed the exact same. The only thing that was remastered was some of the writing, which I think flows a lot better. I think the action scene is more accurately described, where you can visualize it in your head, and the pictures have been revamped as well to have some more quality, to further let you visualize how these characters look and how they move. So, with that being said, let's discuss the differences between Rosemary and Simon, their arcs, or in this case with Rosemary, a lack thereof. Rosemary basically stays the same. She doesn't have any moment of weakness. She doesn't have a darkest hour in this episode. There's no sense of danger. The only thing she has is a bit of a loneliness, not really no loneliness, but a sense of longing for her mother. She wishes her mother was still around, and she's carrying that torch with a sword. But there's nothing really challenging that feeling. There's nothing making her want to better herself. There's nothing that challenges her. And the same thing goes with Sage. They just chase an animal through the streets once they get to the academy with no problem. Simon, on the other hand, starts off with a flashback and then another flashback midway through the episode that shows his backstory, where he came from, who this Judas character is, and why this Judas character has some merit when he speaks. So obviously, Simon grows up to be a not very good kid, with him being a bully with other kids at school. This is further kind of, I guess, contrasted with Judas, who is by all means a demon. He's supposed to be a bad character, and yet he seems more morally sound than Simon. So it shows that Simon definitely has some problems with him. It shows that he is a very selfish individual, and Judas, from his dialogue, you can assume, if you don't know anything about the biblical character Judas, you know that he's been down this road before, and he's trying to warn Simon about it. Simon does not take this advice, but does take the other advice of helping someone else other than himself, which leads him to help Timmy. And now, comparing again to High Guardian Spice, once Rosemary gets to the academy town, she chases an animal and runs into two characters. There's nothing to challenge her. There's nothing to set up a character flaw that might be exploited. Simon's flaw is that he's selfish and very self-motivated. He's greedy. And the one time that he's not greedy, the one time where he's agreeing to help someone, it ends up getting him in trouble. It ends up getting him in a fight with Saul, and this fight obviously does not go very well for him. He gets the breath knocked out of him. He is getting thrown around, punched through walls. He is taking a beating. And it is because of the fact that he chose to help someone that he is facing a consequence. And this is a theme that goes across the entire series, especially in the first season. The theme of, if you want to help someone, if you want to be a good person, you have to make sacrifices. Nothing worth doing is without its consequences. Something is always going to happen for a choice you make. Whether it's a good or bad decision, there's going to be a consequence of it. And Simon learns that here, where trying to help someone ends up hurting him. But obviously, he ends up getting the upper hand and burying Saul in the building, which we later see that he survives. Setting up a continual threat as well. Not only the fact that Saul is not just a lone man, he is with a bunch of people, and it is this corporate group that is the overarching threat throughout the entire series. Is that the Office of Hell is after Simon after he escaped from the demon's clutches, after they imprisoned him and infected him with the demon blood. Compared to High Guardian Spice, which, again, doesn't really have a goal objective through this episode. If you want to say there's a goal, it's to reach as the episode would say, Journey to Lingard, the goal is to get to Lingard, and it doesn't have any problems. They get there with ease halfway through the episode, and it doesn't lead to anything suspenseful. It doesn't lead to anything that would make you want to keep watching, or if this was a book, a manga, it wouldn't have anything to hook people to keep reading. It would lose readers' attention because there's nothing to keep them interested. Compared to this, the thing that keeps them interested is the fact that there's one, Simon has a demonic eye. He gets infected. How is he still alive after getting stabbed through the eye? Which at this point is not revealed yet. How does he, how does he survive that, right? Then there's also the character of Saul. Who is this guy? What does he work for? And what are the demon's goals in this? What is the goal of infecting Simon? And so there's a couple of hooks. Midway through the episode, the hook is, oh no, Simon just got knocked out. What's going to happen? Is he going to be taken back to hell, or what's going to happen here? What is the deal with this? So that keeps the reader invested. You get some more backstory on the characters as well, which makes you get to understand some of their motives a bit. Why Simon is the way he is as a character, why he is selfish, is because he feels like he's been robbed in life. And then, obviously, the conclusion of the fight with Simon getting the upper hand and being able to defeat Saul for the day. The hook at the end of the episode is that Saul survives, and Judas is somehow involved with them as well. And, of course, Simon has to help Timmy find his parents. So, yeah, that is the first episode, and that is the hook. The first episode is the hook into a series. If you don't have a proper hook, people aren't going to be interested in what your story is. And High Guardian Spice doesn't have a hook. It doesn't have any hooks, despite introducing 4 characters that all are different, 4 main characters, as well as several others that are not main, but are secondary. Not a single one of them have a hooking plot point that makes you want to keep watching. And again, this is an entire group of people writing, editing, working on this animation, and I am just one guy, and I can tell you what I did to write this. I started looking up writing tips. I'm not even exaggerating. I still watch YouTube videos on writing because I want to learn how to write the best I can. And I have through this process of 2 years of doing this, I have found my style not only in art but in writing. I have found my art and my style in storytelling, and it just comes from experience and doing it. And if you were to ask me to write a story years ago, like years before I wrote this, it would be worse than DemoniCo, obviously. But it's the fact of experience. It's not just writing experience, it's life experience. And I feel like the writers either don't have enough experience that worked on High Guardian Spice, the editors don't have enough experience with it, or they just, I don't know, they think that what they've done is really good and that no one understands it. I don't know. But clearly, when you have let's look at that again, a 1.2 out of 10 on IMDb, clearly there's a problem. And it's not the audience. Clearly, if the audience is so overwhelmingly in agreement that this show is bad, clearly there's something wrong with the show. Even if you take away some of the spam, right, it's still going to be in the 3s. It's still going to be in the 3 area, and 3 is not good. 3 is not good. You want your show to at least be a 7 and above. A 1.2, 3, if I'm being generous, is not good. It's not good. This has, DemoniCo, the series as a whole, has an 8.71. Which, obviously that could be better. That could be a 9. And I'm hoping that season 3, whenever it comes out, people will read that and say, hey, this is a huge improvement. and and look at this and say, hey, I'm gonna rate this a higher rating because the story is interesting. It keeps me invested, and hopefully people will think the art is good. I think the art is good, but it's ultimately it's up to the people. If the people don't like this, then it's a fault on me. It's a fault on me. It's me writing. Writing a failure at writing, basically. If people do not like this, if the ratings go down to like 3, I had to accept the fact that I messed up somewhere along the way, and if there's a way for me to fix it, I'll try and fix it. That's ultimately how writing should go. You take a critique, you fix it. Now, do I think it's impossible for High Guardian Spice to be improved? No, it's definitely possible for it to be improved, but there's going to have to be a focus shift. Just an entire whatever they were focusing on before, they're going to have to change that to addressing the problems with the first season and rectifying that before they move on with the second season. And it really sucks for, I think, the animators in this case the most. Because the animators are just doing what the writers tell them to, right? The writers are writing the story and the animators are doing whatever the story is. So at this case, at this point in time, it's probably safe to assume that Season 2 has already begun animation. The basic animation right now. It has already begun doing some form of art. That is safe to assume. And if a major rewrite is necessary, which I think it is, let's be honest, it's going to cost the animators, which on a show that already, through not just my opinion, but a lot of people, that the animation is not that great, that's going to rush them even more, and it's just going to make the train wreck even worse. Now, if the cost of better animation is a better story, I say that's fine. I would rather have a story that I can get invested into than a terrible story and, oh, look, pretty art. It's visual stimuli, but it doesn't stick with you. It doesn't make a lasting impression on you. If anything, it would just be like a clip of the animation that gets circulated on social media, and people, they hit the like button on it, but they don't check out the show because the show apparently has terrible writing. That kind of thing. Can it give results? Yes, but it's not going to give lasting results. And I think, most importantly, High Guardian Spice needs to identify what the writers needed. They need to identify what went wrong, what people don't like, and adjust it in the second season. The first season is already out there. It's too late. Unless they wanted to kill the whole thing and start from scratch, which honestly at this point might not even be a bad idea. It's something that would be difficult, but it could be improved on. It could be fixed. It could be made better in Season 2. And I would rather the writers do that, do the difficult thing and fix the writing first, animation afterwards. Maybe the animation takes a hit because of the rewrite, but it is... I'm urging the writers right now that if you're thinking about making that decision, make that decision now. Make that decision now. Because it's only going to get worse for your animators the longer you wait to make that decision. That's just the truth of it. That is the fact of it. And I sincerely want this show to do better. Because I actually, whenever this trailer first came out, I was like, okay, it looks, obviously it doesn't look like a traditional anime, which is fine. But if Crunchyroll wants to make an anime, I mean, they've got plenty of stuff on their catalog of shows that they can take inspiration from, that they can take writing inspiration from. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this show a chance. I'm going to do that. But then more stuff started coming out, and more things about the show started showing itself in a negative light, and then the show finally came out, and me along with everyone else realized how terrible it was. And I say that kind of abrasively, that the show is terrible, but it is. I mean, there's no way to get around it. I can't sugarcoat a 1.2. I can't sugarcoat that. So it is what it is. It's something that the writers are just going to have to accept, the fact that what they've made is not good, and they honestly can only go up from here. How far up they want to go is up to them. But by all means, if you're going to do a rewrite of season 2, do it now so your animators have more time. That's all I'm going to say. So, to summarize, High Guardian Spice Pilot has no conflict, no intense situation to keep you hooked, no mystery that is meaningful in the episode that can get you hooked, compared to the beginning writing of a beginning writer. I'm sure there's a better way to word that. First episode ever made, and it has a goal in mind, it has a theme, and it has hooks. It has conflict. Just saying.